Okay, part two of my testimony. So, where I left off was when I gave my life to Christ at the age of 18. By that time, my relationship with my mom had improved. But during that time, my relationship with my dad was, there was really no relationship with him. Without getting into it or saying too much, I will say that a lot of the things, bad decisions that he made when he was younger, came back to bite all of us in the butt. And was greatly affecting him. And at the time, I couldn't see that it was affecting him. To me, it seemed like he didn't care. But I know now that that wasn't the case. But it was some pretty, really messed up stuff. That, I guess he thought he had buried away. That, he didn't think, or he didn't get buried away like he thought. And so I really didn't like my dad. And every chance I got to let him know that, I let him know that. And I was really mean and disrespectful and disregarding and didn't care. Because I felt like he didn't care. But that was not pleasing to God. And the Lord let me know that. So when I was, we'll fast forward to maybe like 19, maybe 20. I think I was about 20. I was so sick that I couldn't work a job. I couldn't function more than, honestly, a few hours a day, or even a few days a week. Every day I was sick. Every day I felt sick, and but some days I could function sick, and some days I could not function sick, and I would just be in the bed 2 days at a time, a day at a time, and there was no way I could have worked a job or anything. Every day I felt sick. It had just become normal for me to wake up in the morning with a migraine headache and go to bed with a headache and sleep with a headache with a migraine. But when I was about 20, I think it was, still being nasty and evil and hateful to my dad, but professing to be a Christian and having this relationship with Jesus Christ. But yeah, when I was 20, I had 2 back-to-back dreams that an angel came and told me if I didn't get my migraine headaches under control, I was going to die. And I had that dream twice, and it scared me. And I went to my mom, and I told her, because my whole life I've had dreams. From a very young age, I had dreams. Dreams and visions, and yeah. So I went and told my mom, and she said, that's a warning dream. And she said, you need to go on a 3-day fast and seek the Lord. And so I did. I went on a 3-day fast. All I had was water, and I just prayed and sought the Lord. And I always would have dreams. Excuse me, that's how God communicated with me a lot. Like I said, even from a very young age, being very, very young, I would always dream. And during these 3 days of fasting, I dreamt nothing. And God said nothing to me for 3 days, which was very unusual for me. And I remember on the 3rd day, the last day of the fast, final day, I woke up day 4. And I remember I got up and I went and took a shower, and I cried. I sobbed in the shower. So I was like, that's it, I'm going to die. I was like, I'm going to die. I'm 20 years old and I'm going to die. And I was crying, and I was just sad. And I showered, I ate something, and I remember this deep, heavy sleep fell over me. And I was in a vision. I was instantly in a vision. And I was sitting in front of a mirror. Like a mirror that you see like in like a dance studio. Floor to ceiling mirrors. I was sitting in front of it with my legs crossed, crisscross applesauce. And I was staring at myself in the mirror. And all of a sudden, when I tell you, it was like a little version of me, like this big, came charging at me with like fang-like teeth. And it was like out of control. It was like enraged and angry and just crazy with teeth, like fang-like, long, rigid, sharp, just horrible looking teeth. Crawled on me and was biting down on my head. And I shook myself out of the vision. And I was just laying there. And again, so I was 18 the first time I heard God's voice. I am now 20. So it's 2 years later, I hear God speak to me again. And I asked him I said, I got glitter on my hands. I think it's glitter. I said, God. I said, what was that? And he said, Casey, that is what is causing your migraine headaches. And I said, what? He said, it's you. He said, it's your anger, it's your bitterness, it's your unforgiveness, it's your rage. Because I was a mean, nasty, enraged person back then. I was a nasty person back then. I could be really nice or really mean. And he said, if you don't get that under control, you are going to die. He said, you are killing yourself. And I said, okay, Lord. I said, well, what do I do? He said, you have to forgive your dad. Now, for some people that are watching this, you might be like, oh, easy peasy, cool. For me, at that time in my life, that seemed impossible. And I won't even go into the details. But if you've ever had someone just think back to someone that's done you real dirty, and it almost seemed like there was like complete no emotion or feeling behind it at all. It was just like, that's kind of how my dad was at the time. Like, you just stabbing the whole family in the heart, and there's no regard, no emotion, no I'm sorry, no nothing. And you, God, are now telling me that I need to forgive that. I was like, God, I love you. I love you. But I don't even know how to begin to even think about doing that. I said, you have to help me. And he gave me instruction. He said, every morning, I want you to look yourself in the mirror, and I want you to say, I forgive my dad. And anyone else, any other person that has been absolutely horrible to you, whatever reason that you're holding anger or bitterness, look yourself in the mirror and say, I forgive. And he told me, he said, you're not going to believe what's coming out of your mouth. You're not going to believe that you forgive. You're not going to forgive. But if you can just say it, then you give me room to move. And I said, okay. And I was instructed to stop being disrespectful, to stop, to honor him. And that was hard. Ooh. because I felt like I had every right to, and that was dishonoring and displeasing to God. So every morning I got up, I looked myself in the mirror, and I said, I forgive my dad. And I didn't believe it. But every day I did it. And I can't tell you the moment or the point or the day or the second that I started to forgive him. I just know now my relationship with my dad is nothing like it was. And my dad is nothing like he was then. Because once I started to forgive and take those steps that the Lord instructed me to, the Lord started giving me dreams and visions about my dad. And he started instructing me on how to pray for my dad so that my dad would get set free, which he is today set free. Our relationship is the best it's ever been. He will call me up, prophesy over me, pray for me, all the things. My dad is so anointed. He is so fired up for God. He is so spirit-filled. Far more now than he ever was when he was a pastor. And our relationship is beautiful. And so my testimony and when all of that started happening and the forgiveness started happening and the disrespect started happening, I can remember the day I woke up. It was probably about a year later. I woke up and I had no migraine headache. I had no kind of headache. That was so foreign to me. But I remember I would be afraid every morning. I would just be laying in the bed with my eyes closed. And I knew the second I opened my eyes, my head was going to start. And I remember the day I was laying in bed in the morning, and I was there and I was afraid to open my eyes. But I opened my eyes, and there was no migraine headache. There was no headache. There was no sickness. There was no metal taste in my mouth. Nothing. I was clear. I was whole. I was healed. And I just praise God. So I don't know what people out there are dealing with, but I can say 100% the root cause of my sickness was anger, bitterness, and unforgiveness. And the devil is so sneaky and nasty that he snuck that in at a very young age. He started when I was very young. But God is faithful. And God is good. And my prayer for those that watch this video is that you let go of anger, you let go of bitterness, you let go of unforgiveness. Because when you lay it on the altar, when you give it to God, and in faith every day you look yourself in the mirror and you say, I forgive, I promise you that God will move in your life. I promise you that God will shift things. in a dramatic way. And I remember that happened. I got delivered when I was 20, which was a process. But by the time I was 22, I was completely set free and delivered, and was working a job, and had a beautiful relationship with my dad. And like I said, through me getting delivered and set free, it then opened the door for God to use me to get my dad set free and get my dad delivered, and set him ablaze for the man of God that he is now. And that, me getting healed, delivered, and set free, then triggered him getting delivered, healed, and set free. That then he has now been speaking into my life, prophesying over my life, prophesying into me, which blows my mind. Because I'm like, whoa. If you would have seen me and my dad's relationship, or her interaction with each other, I can't even tell you how many years ago right now. Years ago, you'd be like, that's not the same father-daughter relationship. But that's what God can do with your life. And so my prayer for you is that you put it in God's hands, that you let go of anger and bitterness and unforgiveness and rage. And it's not going to happen overnight. But when you show up every day, you look yourself in the mirror every day, you say, I forgive thus and so, I forgive this person or that person or whatever. You don't have to believe it when you're saying it in that moment. But let me tell you, eventually you will believe it. And God will use you, and God will bless you, and God will increase you in ways you cannot imagine. So this is part 2 of my testimony. I've got more stories and things I'm going to share, but these are the first 2, and I pray that it blesses someone. I pray that this touches the right ears, and give God your yes. Give God your yes and watch what he does with your life. Okay, till next time.